My family pushed me to my absolute breaking point, twisting the meaning of loyalty until it felt like a poison knife. I never thought I'd have to choose between my own sanity and my brother's reckless self-destruction, but here we are. Let me tell you, I'm 30, and for as long as I can remember, our family had this unspoken rule: we stick together no matter what. My parents, Karen and Jim, drilled it into us. They worked hard, sure, but they also had this intense sense of entitlement when it came to family duty. For them, family above all meant endless support, especially for my younger brother, Adam. I was the quiet, responsible one, always doing what was expected, but never really buying into that extreme version of family loyalty. Adam, though? He was a different story. 2 years younger, and honestly, a walking, talking disaster magnet. While I was focused on building a career, Adam was just floating. School was barely a blip on his radar, jobs lasted 6 months max, and he constantly chased these amazing business ideas that were, frankly, laughable. Remember when he tried that dog walking service? He failed spectacularly, but you would have thought he was the next tech mogul from his social media posts. Even his side hustles, selling stuff on eBay for a few months, he treated like he was revolutionizing e-commerce. It was insane. Then, about a year ago, things took a sharp, painful turn. Adam announced he was starting his dream business, some vague tech startup. I was, understandably, a massive skeptic. But my parents? They practically threw a parade. They were convinced this was it. Adam had finally found his calling. I just figured it would be another one of his doomed projects and tried not to pay much attention. But then, my parents did something I still can't quite wrap my head around. Without so much as a conversation with me, they poured their entire life savings into Adam's new venture. Their retirement, their security, everything they'd worked for. Gone. Just like that. They called it an investment in the family's future and expected me to be thrilled, supportive, proud. I was boiling. Not because I begrudged Adam's success, but because they had just thrown away everything for a pipe dream of a loser. I tried talking to them, tried to make them see that Adam had no business sense, no plan, no experience. But they just guilt-tripped me, saying I was selfish, unsupportive. He's family, we have to help him. You should want to help him, they tell me. At first, I held my ground. I was furious, but I didn't want to completely blow up the family. I told them fine, help him if you want, but don't expect me to bail him out when, not if, this inevitably falls apart. They didn't listen. They were utterly convinced. Fast forward a few months. Just as I predicted, Adam's business was sinking faster than a lead balloon. Instead of building anything real, he was living large on my parents' dime. Fancy office space he couldn't afford, hiring people he didn't need, throwing lavish launch parties that were just excuses to hang out with his friends. Designer clothes, expensive gadgets, while my parents were suddenly on a tight budget. It was an absolute slap in the face. And the worst part? My parents refused to see it. They were in complete denial about Adam's recklessness. But that didn't stop them from calling me. Mike, you're doing well. We've helped you so much over the years, it's time for you to step up for your brother. Every other week, the calls would come, the guilt trips intensifying. He's your brother. Don't you want to see him succeed? I tried reasoning, explaining they were enabling him, perpetuating his failures. But it was always the same response: you have to help. It's what family does. I started ignoring their calls, putting distance between us. But they kept pushing. Then came the final, gut-wrenching straw. One afternoon, I got a text from my mom. Hey Mike, we really need your help. Adam's business is officially bankrupt. He's broke, and we don't have the money to help him anymore. Can you please send over a few thousand to help him get back on his feet? That was it. I was done. No more guilt, no more compromise. I decided to make them face the brutal reality. I didn't respond immediately. I waited a few days. Then I sent them a screenshot. It was from Adam's Instagram, a series of posts from his recent 5-star resort vacation, with captions like, "Living my best life," and "Hard work pays off." I didn't type a single word. I just let the images scream for themselves. A wave of satisfaction washed over me as I hit send. It wasn't just about the vacation photos, it was the culmination of years of frustration, of being the responsible one while Adam got a free pass. It was the moment I finally stopped enabling the cycle of irresponsibility. It was petty, yes, but it was the most empowering thing I'd done in months. Initially, silence. I knew they were processing, probably scrambling to find a new angle. But after a few days, the texts started flooding in. My mom, Karen, was first. Her tone was sugar-sweet, but I could feel the tension, the thinly veiled demand behind every word. "Mike, we understand that you're upset, but Adam is family, and right now he's going through a tough time. He needs us, he needs you. Please don't be like this. We've always been there for you, and now it's time for you to return the favor. If you can't help him, we really don't know what we're going to do." It was a punch to the gut, that familiar guilt trip, thicker and more manipulative than ever. I wanted to respond, to rage, but I stayed silent, letting them feel the discomfort. A few hours later, my dad, Jim, weighed in. His text was more direct, more forceful. The stern patriarch, trying to browbeat me into submission. "Mike, we didn't raise you to act like this. We gave everything to help your brother, everything, and now you turn your back on us when we need you most. This isn't how family behaves. You should be ashamed of yourself." That text ignited something in me. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about standing up for myself. For years, I had been the good son, the one who never rocked the boat. I was done with that. I wasn't going to let them guilt me into paying for Adam's colossal mistakes. I let their messages sit, knowing they were waiting for me to cave. After a day of silence, I finally hit them back with something they wouldn't expect. I replied to both of them, short and sharp. "I'm not giving Adam another dime. I'm not enabling him to continue his irresponsible behavior. If you both want to continue pretending he's not at fault here, that's on you, but I won't be a part of it anymore." It was cold. It was harsh. But oh, did it feel good. For the first time in a very long time, I felt like I was truly standing up for myself. The days that followed were pure chaos. My phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, texts, they were relentless. At first, it was more pleading, more guilt. My mom called repeatedly, her voice laced with disappointment. "I'm so disappointed in you, Mike," she'd say, or, "You used to be such a caring son. I can't believe you're doing this to your family." But I didn't pick up. I let it ring, letting their guilt wash over me, powerless. The more they called, the more justified I felt. If they truly thought Adam needed help, they could deal with him. I was done with this circus. Then the pressure escalated. One afternoon, my aunt, my mom's sister, called. She never calls. I knew immediately she was just their messenger. She didn't mince words. "Mike, we've all been talking. Your parents are beside themselves. This is family, You're supposed to help when things get hard, not just turn your back on them." It stung, but I kept my voice calm. I explained everything again: Adam's irresponsibility, his reckless spending, how my parents were blindly enabling him. She didn't get it. She couldn't. For her, family sticks together was an absolute truth, right or wrong. She kept repeating it. I kept responding, not if it means enabling failure. The calls kept coming, each more desperate than the last. Guilt trips, threats of disappointment, even using my childhood as leverage. "We sacrificed so much for you when you were younger. You owe us this one thing." It was emotional manipulation at its finest, and for a moment, I was shaken. But then I realized they weren't going to change. They were too deep in denial, too invested in protecting Adam from his own consequences. And the more they begged, the more I knew I'd done the right thing. But just when I thought things couldn't get any more intense, something totally unexpected happened. Adam showed up at my door. It was a Wednesday afternoon, about a week after I'd sent those Instagram screenshots. I was just finishing lunch when I heard the knock. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I opened it cautiously. There he was, standing on my doorstep, hands shoved in his pockets, a sheepish, almost pathetic look on his face. "Mike, we need to talk." I didn't say a word. I just stepped back and let him in. He shuffled inside, the tension thick between us. Adam, who usually carried himself with this cocky swagger, looked utterly defeated. His shoulders were slumped, his eyes darting everywhere but mine, like he knew what was coming. "Mike, look," he started. "I don't want to hear any more excuses, Adam." I cut him off, my voice ice cold. "I've already told you everything I need to say. You messed up and I'm not bailing you out." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit. "I get it, all right? I get it. But you're not understanding. It's not just about the money anymore." I raised an eyebrow. "Really? Then what's it about, Adam? Because as far as I can tell, this whole mess is about the money." He shifted uncomfortably, his gaze flickering around the room as if searching for an escape route. "It's not like that, Mike. I've been trying to fix things. The business. I thought it was going to work, but I messed up. I know that I made mistakes, okay?" "Yeah, you did," I said, my voice harsher than I intended. "You spent all the money on trips. You went to Vegas, Adam. Vegas, and now you want me to help you after all of that." His face flushed red, and for a second I thought he might snap. But then he just sighed, defeated. "I don't know what you want me to say. I know I messed up, but I've got nothing left. I'm just asking for a little help." I crossed my arms, leaning against the kitchen counter. "No, Adam. You've had plenty of chances to fix things. But instead of trying to work hard and make the business succeed, you chose to blow all that money on nonsense. And now you want me to clean up your mess." He opened his mouth to respond, but I cut him off again. "And don't even think about bringing Mom and Dad into this again. They're the ones who enabled this. They've been sending me texts, trying to guilt me into giving you money, but I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. You need to learn your lesson." A long silence hung in the air. Adam didn't speak, just stood there, hands in his pockets, his face contorted in frustration. I could see him about to say something else, but then the anger in his eyes shifted, and I saw something else, desperation. "You're really just going to leave me hanging?" he asked, his voice quiet. "You're just going to let me fail?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. My decision was made, but seeing him like this, a flicker of sympathy did ignite. He was my brother, after all. I wanted to believe he could get his act together. But I knew, deep down, he had to face the consequences. If I kept bailing him out, he'd never change. "Adam, this is on you," I said firmly. "You can't keep running to people to solve your problems for you. You're an adult now. You need to figure this out yourself. And no amount of whining or guilt-tripping is going to change that." He stood in silence, my words sinking in. But I could see the frustration building behind his eyes. It was like he couldn't grasp the idea that his actions had consequences, that his mismanagement, his poor choices, had led him here, and there was no easy way out. Then came the worst part. Adam's voice wavered when he spoke next. "So what? You're just going to leave me to deal with this all on my own? You don't care if I lose everything?" It was a cheap shot, one I could see coming a mile away, but it still hit me hard. I stared at him for a few moments, letting the silence stretch. I knew I had to say something, but the weight of his words made it harder than I expected. I opened my mouth to respond, but he beat me to it. "You know what, Mike? Fine. You don't want to help, that's your choice. But don't expect me to forget it. Don't think that because you're too proud to lend a hand, you're not part of the reason I'm here." I shook my head slowly. "Adam, I'm not the reason. You're the reason. Your decisions got you into this mess, and you want me to bail you out again after everything you've done." He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he just turned away, muttering under his breath as he walked toward the door. The tension in the room was thick, suffocating. It was almost surreal, like everything was happening in slow motion. Just before he left, though, he paused and looked back at me with a smirk. "I'm not done, Mike," he said. "If you think this is over, you've got another thing coming." And with that, he slammed the door behind him. The next few days were a blur of emotions. After Adam left, I didn't hear from him for a while, which I hoped was a good sign. Maybe he was finally processing it. Maybe he was realizing he couldn't keep running from his mistakes. But of course, that wasn't the case. About a week later, I got a text from my mom. Her message was as angry as I'd ever seen it, filled with pure frustration and resentment. It read, "Mike, I can't believe you. Your brother's in a bad place and you're making it worse. This is your fault. If you just stepped up and helped him, maybe things would be different. But instead, you're letting him suffer. I'm ashamed of you." That hit me harder than I'd like to admit. It was just another guilt trip, another attempt to manipulate me, but this time, it didn't wound me the way it used to. I had already made my choice, and there was no going back. I wasn't going to let them drag me back into this mess. As the days passed, I kept thinking about everything. The constant texts from my mom, the guilt trips, the endless attempts to manipulate me into helping Adam. It was exhausting. I was done being the one to carry everyone else's weight. I wasn't their bailout plan anymore. It wasn't just about the money either, it was about principle. Adam's failure was his own doing, and I wasn't going to be the one to fix it for him. I'd helped in the past, more times than I cared to count. Each time, it was the same. He'd promise things would change, he'd vow he'd learn from his mistakes. But all that did was give him more chances to fail again. No more. I started ignoring my mom's texts. I didn't respond to the calls either. I knew what they wanted, and I wasn't going to give in. There was no amount of guilt they could throw at me that would change my mind. I had a life to live, and I wasn't going to let them drag me into their toxic cycle any longer. They had their own choices to make, and they were going to have to live with them. A week passed without any real communication, and I thought, maybe, just maybe, they'd come to their senses. But then one night I got a phone call. I glanced at the screen. It was my mom. I took a deep breath, let it out slowly, and answered. "Mike, we need to talk," she said, her voice already tinged with frustration. "About what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I wasn't in the mood for another round of guilt trips. "About your brother. He's in over his head, Mike. He needs help," she said. "He can't do it alone. You owe it to him." I clenched my jaw, my grip tightening on the phone. "Mom, I don't owe him anything. He's the one who messed this up, not me. You and Dad keep bailing him out, and you're not doing him any favors. I'm not going to keep enabling this." Her tone shifted to something more pleading. "He's family, We're family. Don't you care about us? You can't just turn your back on him like this." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. "I'm not turning my back on anyone. I'm just not going to keep cleaning up someone else's mess. I've done it enough. I'm tired of being the one to sacrifice for him, to make it easier for him when he's made a choice to be reckless. I'm done." There was a pause on the other end. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head, trying to figure out what angle to play next. I knew she was hoping I'd cave, but this time I wasn't going to. "But Mike, please. We're your family," she repeated, but there was an edge of desperation in her voice now. "You can't just abandon him. If you don't help him, we don't know what's going to happen. He's already in a bad place. What if it's too late?" My patience wore thin. It's not too late for him to take responsibility for his own actions. "You want to fix things for him? Fine. But not with my money. Not with me cleaning up his mistakes. He's an adult. It's time he learns how to handle his own problems." I paused, making sure my words sank in. I'm not going to be your scapegoat. If you and Dad keep enabling him, then that's your problem. But I'm done with it. I could feel the weight of her silence over the phone, and I knew she was trying to come up with something that would change my mind. But she had nothing. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about them refusing to see that Adam's failure wasn't my fault, and it wasn't my responsibility to fix it. After a few seconds, she spoke again, quieter this time. I can't believe you're doing this, Mike. I thought you'd be there for us. I thought you were a part of this family. And with that, she hung up. It stung hearing her say that. It hurt in a way I wasn't expecting. But deep down, I knew it was the right decision. This wasn't about family loyalty anymore. This was about standing my ground. I couldn't keep giving up my time, my money, my energy for people who couldn't even acknowledge their own faults. That night, I sat there in silence, staring at my phone, thinking about everything that had happened over the last few months. I knew what I had to do, and I wasn't going to let anyone make me feel guilty for it anymore. A few days later, Adam tried reaching out to me again. Same story, he was struggling, he needed help, and this time, he'd do better. I didn't even respond. Not because I didn't care, but because I did. I cared enough to let him face the consequences of his actions. I cared enough to stop enabling him. And just like that, the phone call stopped. The text stopped. The guilt trip stopped. They had no more leverage, no more strings to pull. I was done. I was finally free from that toxic cycle. So here's the thing. Was I wrong to cut them off like this? Should I have just kept helping? Or is it time to let them figure things out for themselves? Honestly, I'm still conflicted about whether I made the right call. What do you think?